experience. I was told about 15 minutes before I was due here that I was on.
Nice.
So I'm quite unprepared, but I take a lot of pleasure in introducing Ken as a speaker. He will be commenting and doing readings from his book, Gateway to Obscurity. Gateway to Obscurity is a collection of poetry amassed over some 20 years that describes the troublesome journey of seeking one's true identity against the conforming restraints of society. So with that, I'll let Ken introduce himself.
Yay, Ken!
Make it
Yay!
sound like there's more than one person.
Yay, Ken!
Well, thank you, Dave, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, I'm the warped mind behind Gateway to Obscurity, or as I like to think of it, as the personal journey towards one's identity. Part of which is within the particular library, where in that library lab and the cubicles behind it, I actually wrote some of my poetry and prose. And so I have a connection to this library. So with your permission, I'd like to share some poetry that I've written in my book and some meanings behind it. So I will start with A Mother's Love, which was written originally as a Mother's Day poem for my mother and has since been updated and revised. And this is how it goes. A Mother's Love. I thank you so much for bringing me forth in life. Nurture me through gestation, ensuring my eventual birth. In childhood, I suckled your breasts, gaining strength and further development. Within your arms, I found love and comfort from loneliness. You taught me understanding and encouraged my dreams. When I was ill or injured, you aided my recovery. During times of family squabbling, you sheltered me from the storm. Acting on my behalf, you helped keep the family intact. At times, I would abuse your love, subjecting it to teenage rage. The terrible names I called you, torturing you in awful ways. How fortunate to have you as a mother, with all the trouble I put you through. I know I don't say it often enough, but you're my best friend in the world. You're going to hold your applause to the very end. The next poem I'd like to read is Weak. Weak is about being weak as a child and about being bullied in school and by my father. The expectations that society places on a male to be the protector, especially during my generation where we expected to, hold the fort while, and then not showing much emotion. Strength and bravery fractured by humanity, understanding beneath a hardened shell. Weak yet courageous to demonstrate emotions, bold and unafraid of lurking darkness, vulnerable to attachment tugging at my heart, legendary heroics and physical bravado, conscious objectors who negotiate peace, a powerful warrior ready to do battle, defender of innocence with little regard of self, dedicated soldier to a justified cause, defiant and righteous in protecting the sacred, steadfast commitment beneath human frailty, a true believer grounded by compassion, resilient to adversity grounded by understanding, riddled by imperfections powered by salvation, mere mortal heroes challenged by insurmountable odds, champions of oppressed taking a stand, ordinary people making an ultimate sacrifice. And for my next poem, Childhood Mentor, which is a sort of a dedicated poem to a character named Mr. Rogers, which I grew up with, and this was written shortly after his death. Farewell, gentle soul who nurtured generations, a childhood mentor who still instilled love. Despite political and civil unrest, you remained true. Among the neighborhood were such memorable characters as Speedy Delivery and King Friday, to name but a few. Without fail, you were there, Mr. Rogers, less sophisticated than his contemporaries, loved by all the boys and girls who turned to him morning show. A welcoming smile, a gentle voice of absolute warmth. Beyond there waits a magical place, though now gone, your influence will remain. Then there's the middle child. I was the middle child of 4, being the youngest of the 2. And so my sister and I, we grew up in a family that had a difficult relationship with our father, and a lot of physical and verbal abuse, and which was considered discipline back then. We often felt belittled and unloved. Neither beginning nor end, but in the middle, fighting for identity among sibling rivalry. Often overlooked is the middle child, burdened with the yoke of the eldest sibling, neglected by parents who pampered the baby, struggling for attention with disastrous results, living within a fantasy in order to be appreciated. Growing isolation leads to a greater rebellion, a middle syndrome troublesome child, exhibiting behavior of radical nature, a growing nuisance to a perfect family. Revealing emotions with artistic flair, labeled childish and typical of middle born. Perseverance overcomes artificial expectations. Newly recognized creativity gradually becomes appreciated. Eventually, balance adds some stability, maturity, and understanding heals earlier conflicts. Growing admiration for the middle child. Situated at the center by virtue of birth, meaning found within a child's search for purpose.